My master is master.
Welcome back, Autobots and Decepticons, to another episode of Fixing Transformers. In today's, we're going to take a look at what happened to Igor during and after Transformers Dark of the Moon. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So for you guys who don't remember who Igor was, here's a quick recap on him. Igor, who's presumed to be the head of Longhaul, is one of Megatron's many followers in Dark of the Moon. He's extremely loyal to his master and will go to any length to be with him. Whether that will be waiting at a refugee camp in Africa, or following him all the way to Washington DC, no length is too great for this little dude. And really, that's all the info that we have on this little dude, since he appears and then disappears like most characters in the Bayverse, though how he appeared has a lot of reasonable answers, due to context clues in the previous film, Revenge of the Fallen. But for how he suddenly left is a mystery, so to figure out Igor's timeline, we first need to figure out what Igor is exactly. And thanks to concept art and his overall design, we know for a fact that he's the head of Longhaul. But this can't be, since in my Constructicon Misconceptions 2.0 video, I state that the Longhaul that we see get killed by Optimus is the same Longhaul that was a member of the Constructicon team. So clearly, according to this, he's not Longhaul's head. But there was more than one Longhaul in Revenge of the Fallen, since if you remember, there was a Longhaul clone that was present, and we later see him get blown up in the Operation Firestorm airstrike. But could this clone really be Igor? Well, I'll have to say yes, and here's why. The Longhaul clone that we see does take a hell of a beating from getting shot by a missile, and we later see the airstrike drain all remaining life from any Decepticons were unfortunate enough to get stuck inside. Except for the Longhaul clone, and here's why. If you recall my Constructicon Misconceptions 2.0 video, I said the reason why they cloned Longhaul was because he could take a lot of hits, and we see this in Revenge of the Fallen, when he blocks an incoming missile with no damage whatsoever. But when he gets shot at the beginning of the airstrike, he unfortunately gets hit in the critical zone, causing him to take immense damage. And if you watched my Scalpel video, you know how this turned out. But for the ones who didn't, basically after a while the airstrike was complete, a mangled up Longhaul clone was left to die, clinging on to dear life. And his hopes of being able to stay alive were unexpectedly answered when Scalpel came by searching for survivors. Seeing that the Longhaul clone was barely online, he would need to work fast to preserve it. So Scalpel preserved the most viable organs. He was able to extract the spark with ease, since if you remember, the clone's chest was partly destroyed by the airstrike, leaving the spark mostly exposed and easy to extract. He would then decapitate the clone, using its head as the main body, with mangled up parts from the clone as limbs. This is why when we see Igor's limbs, they're a mess of scrap parts. But the key thing that needed to be done was to get the spark into this creation. So what Scalpel did was to cover the spark up in some makeshift armor, using scrap parts to encase it, and then connecting it to the back of the head. And the ball that we see on Igor's back is where I theorize the spark is located. And to further push this point, we know that the spark is round, since when Jetfire sacrificed himself, we saw him pull out a blue orb. And they all have the same general shape as what we saw on Igor's back, concluding it to be a spark. But how did he meet up with Megatron? Now my Megatron video will go into more depth, but the short version is that Megatron was looking for survivors, and he stumbled upon Igor and accepted him as one of his minions. But before we move on to what happened to him in Dark of the Moon, let's answer the question on why he acts so crazy. And that's because of the spark transplant into his new body. As we learn in Age of Extinction, Optimus tells us that the spark holds their life essence and their memories. And due to the airstrike, the clone spark was partly damaged from it. This is why Igor's personality is extremely loyal due to the original programming of the memories, but also at the same time very insane due to some parts of the spark being damaged after the airstrike. But now let's move on to what happened to him after Dark of the Moon. And what the last time we ever saw him is when he was nibbling on Abraham Lincoln's face. And after that he is gone, so what in the world happened to him? Well, I believe that the best explanation would be that he got killed by friendly fire. Let me explain. We know if Igor was alive, he would have been with Megatron the whole time, due to how loyal he is. And if he was alive, we would have seen him in the scene when Megatron was talking to Carly. And this is proven by the fact that once Megatron returns from his Energon hunt, Igor greets him and follows him back to the camp. He even goes out of his way to sit on the tire on the abandoned truck to be next to Megs. But let's say Megs told him to wait somewhere, like he did when he went on his hunt for Energon. Certainly Megs would have wanted to have Igor to keep him company, since in a way he's kinda his pet, and he takes care of him like the hatchlings. And I doubt that Megs would let Igor wait until the battle was done to reunite, since he didn't seem to care when Optimus Prime was right outside, and if he didn't care if his biggest enemy was outside when Igor was in line of sight, then he certainly wouldn't care if he was out during a war. So for most likely answer being friendly fire, we now have to ask, how did Igor get killed? And I believe he bit the dust shortly after Decepticons went through the portal. We see many jump out of it in random directions and either scanning something or running off to do some mischief, or just wander around the area. And I think one of the Decepticons came out of the portal and went to greet Megatron, and while in the process running up and accidentally stepping on Igor, killing him. And if you really think about it, it's the most likely answer, since the Autobots wouldn't go after him since they had bigger fish to fry when the Decepticon protoforms were running around, causing havoc around the city. And with what we discussed earlier with Megatron, it really leaves friendly fire as the best answer on what happened to Igor. And so we can officially close Igor's story for the rest of the former Transformers cinematic universe. But before I go, I want to say one fun fact on Igor, and that is when he greets Megatron, he climbs onto a hand. And that hand is not just any hand, but a hand from one of the 13 primes. And if you don't believe me, take a look at the scene when Sam finds the Matrix. So I guess the real world explanation on how this hand got here is when Megatron was searching for scrap parts to build his base, he stumbled upon a tomb of the Primes, taking the hand as some sort of trophy, and eventually leaving it to rot at his base, where Igor would use it to stand on. And just like that was Igor's story within the former Transformers cinematic universe. If you enjoyed this theory in the Fixing Transformers collection, please give a like rating because it helped the channel a lot. And as always, it's been Trans Theories reminding you guys to never stop theorizing.
Well, you're caught within the grip of the evil man.